Over the past years of living and working across different places, one pattern kept repeating itself in friendships, relationships, creative circles, and professional environments. People don't always carry their own chaos. When they can't metabolize what they're holding, they pass it along. I started noticing that this is a structure and that some people end up becoming the ones who absorb it, the containers. This video is an attempt to give language to that pattern, what I call chaos offloading. This is part of, the broader project I'm working on here, to map not just places and systems, but the undercurrents that move through relationships, groups, and fields. What I call chaos offloading is the redistribution of unprocessed pain, trauma, shadows, or dysfunctions. Offloading can take many forms: projection, manipulation, coercion, or subtler pulls, and it's rarely just individual. Families, cliques, and institutions all run on this hidden economy of transfer, using people as containers to stabilize themselves. If you have ever wondered about the mechanics behind certain archetypes of toxic dynamics, this video offers a map at the psychosocial and deeper level. The idea of chaos offloading isn't entirely new. Parts of it have been described across psychology, spirituality, and systems theory. I'll return to the literature at the end of the video. Here I'm speaking as a microeconomist and nomadic observer, mapping how choices and incentives shape behavior even in the psychic domain. With that background in mind, let's return to the word itself. Chaos is a word that we throw around casually, but it points to something deeper than just a mess. You can hear at least 3 registers in how it's used. Everyday use, the sense of disorder, confusion, things not making sense. We say that night was chaos or his life was chaotic. Psychological, interpersonal, emotional dysregulation, when someone can't hold their own fear, pain, or impulses and spills it into others. Relational instability, blurred boundaries, projection, sudden pulls and pushes. Here, chaos is really energetic volatility, the sense that those around can't predict what's coming next. Systemic mythic, chaos as the unintegrated, what isn't metabolized, ordered, or contained in a psyche or a system. In mathematics, chaos is not pure randomness, but sensitivity to initial conditions. Tiny shifts can produce wild cascades. That maps eerily well to social fields. A single betrayal, a single misplaced word can trigger disproportionate spirals. In mythology, chaos is the primordial void, the raw material before cosmos, order. Chaos here is both threat and possibility. Dangerous if you're swallowed, fertile if you can hold and shape it. A working definition that bridges these registers: chaos is the unintegrated, the spillover of what a person, group, or system cannot metabolize. It shows up as volatility, blurred boundaries, or social spirals that feel bigger than the trigger. Chaos and drama overlap, but they're not the same. Chaos is the raw state of unpredictability and fragmentation. It doesn't need an audience, it just exists. For example, drug use, secrecy, unstable relationships, money pressures. Drama is chaos performed. It's when instability gets narrated, exaggerated, or enacted between people. Drama needs spectators or participants. It's chaos turned into theater. For example, smear campaigns, jealous triangulations, testing games. Both drain you, but differently. Chaos weighs because you're holding instability that isn't yours. Drama drains because you get pulled into scripts you didn't write. Put differently, chaos is the storm, drama is the thunder everyone insists on pointing at. Chaos isn't simply pain or trauma. Trauma is an event or wound that overwhelms capacity. Chaos is the spillover state when what's unprocessed can't be contained. Trauma often generates chaos, but chaos can exist without trauma. A startup in hypergrowth isn't traumatized, but it may be chaotic. The two get conflated because unintegrated pain often produces chaotic behavior, projection, volatility, offloading, but keeping the distinction sharp prevents the argument from dissolving into chaos is equal to trauma is equal to bad vibes. Chaos doesn't just stay put, it seeks containers. When someone can't metabolize what they're carrying, it spills outward. into whoever is closest and most receptive. That transfer can happen at different levels of awareness. Unconscious discharge, the leak. A person overloaded by trauma, drug use, or instability can't regulate their system. Their nervous system leaks pressure into the environment. Anybody nearby with open empathy or reactive hook becomes the natural container. They don't think I'll offload on her. Their body does it automatically. Semi-conscious testing, the probe. Some people notice you can hold it. They push a little, an intense story, a probing question, a sudden emotional pull to see if you'll absorb it. It's rarely framed as dumping. It's more like, let's see if she'll carry this weight so I don't have to. If you don't block it early, they escalate. Conscious manipulation, the move. At the extreme, chaos offloading becomes strategy. People sense your capacity and exploit it to protect themselves, cover mistakes, or maintain control. It flips into a deliberate power play. If she absorbs this, I stay clean. Across these levels, the pattern is the same. One person feels lighter, you feel heavier. What looks like support or bonding on the surface is actually a redistribution of psychic weight, a hidden economy of transfer. Chaos doesn't disappear, it gets recycled. The benefit accrues to the offloader, while the cost, anxiety, exhaustion, destabilization become externalities of mess that someone else has to carry. I won't go into full psychic accounting here, but the key point is this. Chaos behaves like any other unpriced externality. Unless someone absorbs the cost, the system can't keep running. Offloading isn't just something individuals do. Groups also find ways to distribute and contain chaos, so the system can keep functioning. Families, cliques, workplaces, and even institutions all have repertoires for this. The forms look different, but the logic repeats. Offloading gets socialized, and one can map these mechanisms into 4 broad clusters. This is my own classification, so take what resonates. Assigning roles. Scapegoat. One person absorbs the group's unprocessed mess. Savior, golden child, another gets cast as rescuer, carrying too much under the guise of strength. These roles stabilize the collective by externalizing weight onto individuals. Relational rerouting, triangulation, tension between 2 people gets displaced onto a third. Tell your sister. Splitting, the group fractures into good and bad camps, with each side carrying a piece of the chaos. This keeps the original bonds clean, but at the cost of distortion. Narrative containment, gossip and rumor. Chaos becomes story, traded like currency. Ritualized conflict, groups cycle through blow-ups and reconciliations, binding through spectacle. Here, instability gets metabolized as performance, not solved, just narrated. Boundary by absence, silence and taboo. Instead of dramatizing, chaos is buried, certain topics become unspeakable, certain members become the silent carriers. This route preserves surface order but leaves pressure unprocessed in the shadows. Archetypally, these mechanisms map to familiar figures: the scapegoat, the savior, the gossip, the divider, the keeper of secrets. They are variations of the same economy, distributing chaos so no single person or the group as a whole collapses. Others have touched parts of this map: Klein and Bion on projection and containment, Girard on scapegoats, Bowen on triangulation, Bern on games, Turner on ritualized drama, Foucault on taboo, Mille on the gifted child, but most focus on one mechanism at a time. My aim here is to put them in one basket, to show that those aren't isolated quirks, but recurrent strategies of social survival. Before wrapping up, I want to briefly situate this idea in its broader intellectual lineage. Variants of what I'm calling chaos offloading have been described for decades across different fields. Psychoanalysis therapy, Melanie Klein, projective identification, shoving intolerable feelings into someone else, Wilfried Bion, containment. The analyst takes in chaos, metabolizes it, and returns it. Family systems therapy, scapegoating. One member holds the group's unprocessed mess. In trauma psychology, Gabor Mate, how sensitive people absorb stress and trauma in families or workplaces. Alice Miller, in The Drama of the Gifted Child, how attuned children unconsciously absorb parental chaos. Spiritual Popular, Eckhart Tolle, The Pain Body, the accumulation of past pain, seeking new hosts and triggers. Empath Discourse, absorbing energy, psychic sponging, often evocative but vague. In Sociology, Anthropology, René Girard, the scapegoat mechanism, groups offloading chaos onto a victim to restore order. Thomas Hubel, collective trauma fields, groups discharging unresolved trauma into sensitive nodes. Luhmann Bateson, systems theory, how complexity and entropy get redistributed. My contribution here isn't to reinvent these ideas, but to stitch them into one mechanism map: offloading, transfer, stabilization. Apply an economist's lens, externality, psychic debt, hidden economies of care. Situate them in lived fields, scenes, networks, institutions, without getting lost in clinical jargon or vague spirituality. So, chaos offloading isn't just an individual behavior, it's systemic. It shapes family, friendships, creative scenes, workplaces, whole subcultures. My aim here wasn't to offer solutions, but simply to name the mechanism, to show how chaos moves when it can be held. In a future video, I'll look at the other side of this dynamic, not just where chaos comes from, but where it lands and why certain people become the containers. If any of this resonated, feel free to share your reflections below. And if you want to explore these themes more deeply, you'll find related essays on my blog, Renaissance Nomad. I'll see you in the next one. Take care for now.